The alien arena was loud with the sound of 100 different species shouting and laughing. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and the strange metallic scent of alien blood from earlier fights. Above the wide circular pit, banners of many hunting clans hung in the wind. Today's main event had drawn the biggest crowd in years. At the center of the arena gates, a massive creature waited the Wrathcore. It was huge, with 4 powerful legs, long tail that could break bones, and horns that curved forward like deadly hooks. Its skin was dark and rough like stone, and every time it breathed, steam rose from its mouth. In the crowd, aliens placed bets on who would fight and die today. Many were sure it would be over in less than a minute. This creature had killed trained hunters in seconds. It was called the toughest creature to hunt for a reason. Then the gate on the far side of the arena opened, and the crowd fell silent. A human walked out. No armor, no weapons, not even gloves. Just plain pants, a worn shirt, and boots that looked like they had seen better days. He was tall, with broad shoulders, short dark hair, and a calm face. Some aliens burst out laughing. Others looked confused. A human? Against a Wrathcore? Without weapons? Impossible. One alien leaned to his friend and whispered, "He'll be dead before he takes 3 steps." Another shouted, "This is a waste of time. Give him a spear at least." But the human didn't look at them. He only looked at the beast. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. Hunter Eli Carter, representing no clan, enters the challenge barehanded. Eli took slow, careful steps forward, his eyes never leaving the Wrathcore. The beast's nostrils flared, its muscles tensed, and it let out a deep, rumbling growl that made the ground shake. Without warning, the Wrathcore charged the crowd, cheered, expecting to see the human crushed instantly. The creature's claws dug into the sand, its horns aimed straight for Eli's chest. But Eli didn't move until the last possible moment. Then, with a quick sidestep, he reached out, grabbed the base of one horn with both hands, and twisted his whole body. The beast roared in surprise as Eli's legs pushed hard against the ground. Using the creature's speed against it, the Wrathcore stumbled, its head jerking to the side. Eli kept his grip, pulling and forcing the creature off balance. The alien audience gasped. No one had ever seen someone move like that against a Wrathcore. The creature recovered fast, swinging its tail toward Eli. The heavy blow hit him across the back, forcing him down to one knee. Pain burned through him. But he didn't let go. Instead, he shifted his weight, stepped inside the beast's reach, and hooked his arm around its thick neck. It thrashed wildly, trying to shake him off. Dust rose around them as the struggle continued. Eli's muscles strained. His boots dug deep into the sand, slowly, impossibly. The human forced the beast's head lower, then lower, until one of its knees buckled. The crowd went from cheering for the beast to shouting in disbelief. How is he doing that? It's impossible. He's only using his hands. Finally, with a loud thud, the Wrathcore's massive body hit the ground. Eli stood over it, chest heaving, keeping one hand on the horn in case it tried to rise again, but it didn't. The beast's sides heaved as it panted heavily. Its eyes locked on the strange creature that had beaten it, the human. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a voice shouted from the stands, "Nitrogen monoxide way. Did you just catch the toughest creature to hunt with your bare hands?" Laughter, shock, and applause exploded around the arena. Some aliens cheered. Some shouted that it was a trick, and others simply stared. Eli stepped back from the beast, wiping sweat from his forehead. His back ached. His arms trembled from the effort, but he didn't show weakness. Instead, he walked calmly toward the gate he had entered from. As the announcer declared his victory, alien hunters whispered among themselves. Some looked angry, others thoughtful. A few, though, looked worried, as if this human had just changed something they didn't fully understand. In the highest seat of the arena, a cloaked figure watched him leave. The figure's eyes followed the human with interest. As if already planning something, Eli didn't know it yet. But this fight was only the beginning. His name would soon be known across the galaxy, and many would want to test him, to challenge him, or to destroy him. But for now, all anyone could think about was the sight they had just witnessed. The impossible sight of a human catching the toughest creature to hunt. With his bare hands, word of the fight spread faster than a desert fire. By the next morning, every cantina, market stall, and docking bay in the alien city was buzzing with the same story. A human had defeated a Wrathcore without weapons. Some told it with wide eyes as if it was a miracle. Others told it like it was a trick, but no one could deny what they had seen. Eli Carter didn't care for the noise. He sat in a small food stall at the edge of the market, sipping something that tasted like strong tea but smelled like burned metal. Around him, curious stares kept coming and going. A few aliens pretended not to look, while others didn't bother hiding it. Two large reptilian hunters approached his table. They were covered in armor plates, weapons hanging from their belts. One leaned down, his sharp teeth showing in a mocking smile. Human, you think you're special? Try hunting something real, something that fights back with a mind. Eli didn't look up from his drink. Name it, he said simply. The reptilian laughed and slammed a clawed hand on the table. Tonight, we hunt the Red Skull Stalkers. You, me, no tech, no tricks. If you survive, I'll admit you're more than a story. The crowd around the stall grew, whispers filling the air. Everyone knew the Red Skull Stalkers were worse than the Wrathcore. They were fast, cunning, and hunted in pairs. No one went after them without heavy gear. Eli finished his drink, set the cup down, and stood. Fine, he said, but we hunt my way. The reptilian tilted his head, confused. Your way. Eli only gave a small smile. You'll see. That night, under the twin moons, they set out into the dark canyons. The alien hunters carried nothing but blades. Eli carried nothing at all. His only tools were a coil of rope and a small pouch of sand. The reptilian hunters laughed quietly to each other, certain they would watch the human run when danger came. Hours passed in silence. The wind howled between the rocks. Eli moved like he had walked these paths his whole life. He stopped, often crouching, touching the ground, looking at faint marks in the dust. The others saw nothing, but he seemed to read a story in every footprint and scratch on the stone. Suddenly, Eli raised a hand, stopping them. His eyes scanned the shadows. They're close, he whispered. The reptilian hunters gripped their blades, but before they could move, a blur of red and black leaped from the darkness. The first stalker slammed into the lead reptilian, knocking him to the ground. The second came from the side, aiming straight for Eli. In one quick motion, Eli tossed the sand into its face. The creature screeched, its vision clouded. Eli slipped aside and looped his rope around its neck. The other hunter struggled with the second stalker, but it moved too fast, dodging every slash. Eli pulled the rope tight, using the creature's own movement to choke it. The stalker thrashed, its claws slicing the air. But Eli stayed behind it, his body pressed low, his weight pulling it off balance. The reptilian on the ground yelled for help. Eli dropped the first stalker, letting it stumble away, and ran toward the second instead of attacking directly. He grabbed a loose rock from the ground and hurled it at the canyon wall. The loud crack echoed, distracting the beast for just a second, long enough for Eli to leap onto its back. With his arms around its neck, Eli squeezed with everything he had. The beast tried to slam him against the rocks, but he shifted each time, never letting go. Finally, the stalker's legs buckled and it collapsed with a heavy thud. The canyon went quiet, except for heavy breathing. The reptilians stared at him, eyes wide. You fought them without even a blade, one said. Eli shrugged. You don't need to kill to win. You just need to make them stop fighting. By the time they returned to the city, the story had already grown. Now they called him the Empty-Handed. Hunter children ran up to see if his hands had special claws. Merchants offered free food, and hunters looked at him with a strange mix of respect and jealousy. Eli ignored most of it. He knew how quickly respect could turn into a challenge. And he was right. Because waiting for him in the central square was someone far more dangerous than the reptilian hunter's Zorvath. The champion of the Grand Hunt. The massive alien's armor gleamed under the lights. His voice carried over the crowd. Human. They say you are the greatest hunter alive. I say you are a lucky fool. Tomorrow, I will bring a beast no human has ever faced, and I will watch you fall. The crowd roared in excitement. Eli simply met Zorvath's stare and said, "Then bring your best." What no one knew yet was that this challenge would not be like the others. The next hunt would change the way the galaxy looked at humans forever. And it would put Eli in a kind of danger no one had prepared him for. Asterisk. The day of the challenge came, and the arena was louder than ever. It felt like the whole city had gathered. Word had spread far beyond the walls. Travelers from other systems had come just to watch. Even the Queen's personal guard stood. Along the high balcony in the center of the pit, Eli stood alone again. The sun cast long shadows across the sand. He could feel the heat rising from the ground. Zorvath entered from the opposite gate, his steps heavy, his armor painted in black and gold. Behind him, the cage doors rumbled open, and the crowd went silent. The beast that stepped out was nothing like the Wrathcore. It was bigger, heavier, its body covered in overlapping plates like living armor. 6 glowing eyes stared forward, and a pair of tusks curved out from its jaw. Its tail ended in a spiked hammer that looked strong enough to crush stone. This Zorvath called out, "Is the Korthel a war beast bred to kill on the battlefield? It has never been taken." Alive, not even with weapons, his voice carried across the arena. "If you truly think humans are mighty, then prove it now." The crowd chanted the beast's name. The Korthal pawed at the sand, each movement shaking the ground. Eli studied it carefully. His mind was quiet. He didn't look at Zorvath. Only at the beast. When the signal horn sounded, the Korthal charged. Its legs moved faster than something its size should be able to. Eli dodged, rolling away just as the spiked tail slammed into the sand where he had been standing. The impact threw dust into the air, and a wave of heat and noise rolled over him. Zorvath laughed. "Run, human. Show them your cowardice." But Eli didn't run far. He kept circling, his eyes tracking the beast's breathing. The way it shifted its weight, the small pauses between attacks. The Korthal swung its tusks, aiming to gore him. Eli stepped inside the swing, sliding. Under its neck, his hands gripped one of the thick armor plates near its throat. He pulled hard, feeling the edges shift slightly. The beast roared, twisting to throw him off. Eli hit the ground and rolled, dust covering his clothes. The crowd roared in approval at the close call. But he had learned something. The plates weren't fixed. They shifted when the beast moved. Leaving small gaps, the fight became a dance. The beast charging, Eli dodging, each time getting closer. Each time finding another small gap in the armor. Zorvath's confident smile slowly faded. He had expected the human to tire quickly. But Eli was still moving with sharp focus. Then came the moment Eli had been waiting for. The beast lunged forward with its tusks, and Eli sidestepped toward its blind spot. His hands found a narrow opening at the base of its neck. He drove his arm deep into the gap, his other arm hooking around the tusk to anchor himself. The Korthal roared and bucked wildly, trying to crush him against the ground. but Eli used its own movement to twist the plate further. He pressed hard against a cluster of muscles beneath. The beast's legs began to falter, its roar turning into a heavy, desperate breath. The crowd's noise grew into a mix of shock and excitement. Some shouted for the human, others for the beast. But everyone knew they were watching something that had never happened before. With one final pull, Eli forced the creature's head down into the sand, his knee pressed against its neck, holding it still. The Korthal struggled for a few more seconds, then stopped. Panting hard, silence fell across the arena. Eli slowly stepped back, letting the beast rise to its knees, but not escape. The massive creature turned its head toward him and lowered it. Submitting, the crowd erupted. Even Zorvath stood frozen, his eyes wide. He had brought the deadliest beast he knew, and the human had tamed it without a weapon. Eli wiped sweat from his brow, his voice calm when he finally spoke. "It's not about strength alone. It's about knowing where to hold and when to let go." Zorvath's face twisted into something between anger and respect. He gave a short nod before turning away. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena, declaring Eli the victor. Above, in the royal balcony, the queen leaned forward. Her eyes fixed on the human, a small, knowing smile curved her lips. She whispered something to her guard, and the guard nodded, disappearing into the shadows. Eli left the arena the same way he had entered, quietly, without raising his hands. In triumph. But in the city streets, his name was already being shouted. The empty-handed hunter, the beast tamer, the human who breaks the impossible. What he didn't know was that the Queen's summons was already on its way. And his next challenge would not just be about survival. It would be about politics, loyalty, and a decision that could shape the fate of entire worlds. The Queen's summons came at night. 2 royal guards in polished silver armor waited outside Eli's small quarters. Their eyes never left him as they handed him a sealed scroll. The wax bore the mark of the royal crest, a stylized serpent wrapped around a star. He broke the seal without a word. The message was short, direct, and final. "You will come to the palace before the next sun rises." Eli followed the guards through the silent streets. The city felt different at night. The loud markets replaced with quiet alleyways and the distant hum of energy lamps. Few dared to step outside when the palace called for someone. It was never just a friendly visit. The palace gates opened. With a low groan, the walls were high, carved from black stone that seemed to swallow light. Inside, the air smelled faintly of incense and metal. The floors were polished smooth, reflecting the torchlight like still water in the throne room. The queen sat upon a seat carved from a single massive crystal. Her long robes shimmered with threads of gold. Her eyes, bright, sharp, and unblinking, studied Eli the way hawk studies a mouse. "You've been busy, human," she said. Her voice smooth but carrying weight, catching beasts no one else could. "Humiliating my champion, stirring my city into a frenzy." She leaned forward slightly. "I don't like chaos, Eli Carter, but I do like results." Eli didn't bow. He just met her gaze. "Why am I here?" She smiled faintly. "Because I have a problem that no warrior, no hunter, and no assassin has been able to solve." Her hand waved, and a servant approached, carrying a small cage. Inside was a creature no larger than a house cat. Its fur shimmered with faint light, and its golden eyes seemed far too intelligent for something so small. "This," the queen continued, "is a starling cub, harmless when young, but it belongs to a mother whose nest is in a place no one dares to go." Her voice lowered. "The mist wastes." Eli had heard of the mist wastes, a shifting desert where thick silver fog rolled endlessly, hiding deep sinkholes and strange creatures that hunted by sound. No one returned from there without losing something: their life, their sanity, or both. "You want me to return the cub?" he asked. The queen shook her head. Not just return it, you must find its mother, alive. The beast guards something I need, and it will not be taken by force. Eli crossed his arms. And if I say no? The queen's smile didn't change, but her eyes hardened. Then I will release this cub into the wild. And its mother will hunt you across the stars until you are nothing but a story told over drinks. There was no fear in Eli's face, but he understood this wasn't just a mission, it was a test. Maybe of his skill, maybe of his loyalty, maybe of something deeper. I'll need no weapons, he said, surprising the guards. Just a length of rope, a water skin, and whatever passes for earplugs in this city. The queen arched an eyebrow. Earplugs. Eli glanced at the cub, which blinked slowly at him. If these wastes are as loud as the stories, I'd rather hear my own thoughts than theirs. She studied him for a moment longer, then gave a small nod. Very well, you leave at dawn. The palace guards escorted him back, but Eli didn't sleep. He sat by the small window of his room, watching the moons move across the sky. The cub lay curled in a basket beside him, breathing softly. He thought about the Wrathcore, the Stalkers, the Korthal, all dangerous, all brutal. But they were straightforward. You could see their claws, feel their weight. This was different. This was stepping into a place where the land itself was the enemy. Somewhere far beyond the city walls, the mist wastes shifted under the moonlight, swallowing another lost traveler into its silver fog, and by dawn, Eli Carter would be walking straight into it, carrying the one thing every predator in that cursed place would kill to get back. Asterisk. Dawn broke over the city in pale shades of gold and silver. Eli stood at the edge of the outer gates, the cub resting in a small sling across his chest. The air was cool now. But everyone knew it would not stay that way. The mist wastes changed fast, turning from cold to burning heat in a matter of hours. The guards at the gate gave him long looks. One whispered to another, "He won't come back." Eli ignored them. His focus was on the horizon. Where the silver fog rolled like an endless tide, the first steps into the wastes felt strange. The ground was soft in some places and hard as stone in others. The mist swirled around his legs, curling higher until it reached his waist. It carried a faint metallic taste in the air, like old coins. Every sound seemed louder here. The crunch of his boots on the grit, the rustle of the cub shifting in the sling. Even his own breath felt like it echoed. He understood now why the queen had raised an eyebrow at his request for earplugs. Without them, the noise could drive someone mad. Hours passed, but distance in the mist wastes was a trick. Sometimes the same rock formation seemed to appear twice, and other times the ground beneath him seemed to move ever so slightly. He avoided sudden noises, stepping carefully, keeping his weight low. Then he heard it, a sharp clicking sound, fast and steady. It came from the mist ahead. Growing louder, he crouched low, placing a hand on the cub to keep it still. Out of the fog emerged a creature like nothing he had ever seen. It was tall and thin, its body covered in chitin plates that shimmered faintly. 6 legs moved with insect precision. Its head was smooth, eyeless, and where a mouth should be was a wide, ridged opening that clicked in rhythm. The sound hunters Eli stayed frozen. He knew the stories. They could sense the smallest vibrations and were drawn to anything that moved or made sound. The cub shifted slightly, and Eli's hand tightened around it. The creature paused, its clicking slowing. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it turned and vanished back into the fog. He let out a slow breath. His heart was steady, but he knew this place was not done with him yet. The mist thickened until he could barely see 2 steps ahead. Shadows moved inside it, some tall, some low to the ground. He couldn't tell if they were real or tricks of the mind. The cub let out a soft sound, and Eli felt the fur on the back of his neck rise. The ground ahead sloped downward into a hollow. At the center, barely visible through the shifting fog, something glimmered. He moved closer, and the shape became clear. The skeletal remains of a ship. Half buried in the sand, inside, the air felt heavier. The walls were scratched with marks that looked like claws. A tattered banner hung from a beam, marked with a symbol he didn't recognize. The cub stirred again, making a low hum. Then he heard it, a deep, rolling growl from somewhere beyond the ship. Slow, deliberate steps. Approach. The sound made the air vibrate. Eli slipped into the shadows of the wreck, his body pressed against the cold metal. Out of the mist came something massive, larger than any beast he had faced. Its fur shimmered like the cub's, but darker. Its golden eyes burned through the fog. The starling mother, she stopped, head tilted, as if listening, her gaze fixed on the ship, on the place where Eli hid. He felt her presence in his chest. A pressure like the air itself was holding him still. The cub let out another hum, louder this time. The mother's ears twitched. Her growl softened, and she stepped closer. Eli stayed perfectly still. He knew that one wrong move could turn this from a meeting into a fight he couldn't win. The great beast lowered her head until her nose was inches from him. Her eyes shifted from his face to the sling. The cub squirmed, letting out a soft chirp. And in that moment, Eli understood. She wasn't here to kill him. She was here for her child. But somewhere in the mist, he heard another sound. Not the soft hum of the mother, but the faint metallic hiss of armor plate sliding. Hunters, he realized the queen's problem wasn't just about returning the cub. There were others here, tracking her, and if they attacked now, the mist wastes would become a killing ground. The hiss of armor grew louder, cutting through the thick silver fog like the approach of a machine. Eli's muscles tensed. He knew that sound trained killers moving in sync. He shifted the cub slightly in the sling, keeping it close to his chest. The starling mother's golden eyes narrowed, her ears twitching toward the noise. From the mist emerged 4 figures in black and crimson armor. Their movements sharp and deliberate. Each carried long spears, tipped with humming energy blades. Their helmets had narrow eye slits, glowing faintly. They fanned out without speaking. Surrounding the hollow where Eli and the mother stood, the lead hunter's voice came through a metallic filter. Step away from the beast. Human, you have something that belongs to us. Eli stayed where he was. You mean the cub? Doesn't look like it belongs to you. The hunter tilted his head slightly. We were paid to bring the mother and the cub back alive. The buyer didn't mention a human in the deal. Walk away and you'll keep breathing. The starling mother's growl deepened, low and dangerous. Eli knew that if she attacked, these hunters would kill her, or worse, cage her. And if he moved wrong, they might kill him first. The hunters advanced slowly, their boots barely making a sound on the soft ground. Eli's eyes flicked to the edges of the hollow. The fog was thicker there, swirling strangely. An idea formed in his mind, risky. But it might work. He raised one hand, palm out. All right, he said. I'll walk away. He took a step back, deliberately moving toward the side of the hollow where the ground looked unstable. The lead hunter stepped forward, lowering his spear. Good choice. Eli took another step back and slammed his heel into the ground as hard as he could. The crust of sand gave way instantly, dropping him and the nearest hunter into a hidden sinkhole. Dust and mist exploded upward. The other hunters reacted fast, but the starling mother was faster. With a roar that shook the air, she lunged. Her massive body crashed into 2 of them, sending one tumbling into the wreckage of the ship. The other rolled away, barely avoiding her claws. Eli hit the bottom of the sinkhole hard. The cub pressed against his chest. The fallen hunter swung his spear toward him, but Eli grabbed the shaft before the blade could ignite. With a quick twist, he ripped it free and drove the blunt end into the hunter's helmet. The figure went limp, collapsing in the sand above. The fight raged in chaos. The mother's tail lashed out. Striking a spear from one hunter's grip, Eli scrambled up the slope. Using his free hand to grab jagged metal from the wreck, he hurled it toward a hunter, aiming for the mother's flank. The scrap hit with enough force to stagger him. The lead. Hunter recovered fast, raising his spear again. Enough? The queen wanted them alive, but I'll settle for dead if I must. Those words stopped Eli cold. The queen, she had sent them, not as a rescue, but as insurance. Maybe she never expected him to succeed. Or maybe she wanted the beast brought in without him. The mother seemed to understand, too. Her golden eyes flashed with something almost human realization. And then fury. She roared, the sound cutting through the mist like thunder. Eli made a choice in that moment. He wasn't just going to survive. He was going to make sure neither the cub nor its mother ended up in chains. He ducked low, grabbing the dropped spear from the sand. T didn't turn it on. The hum would give away his movements instead. He used the weight of the shaft to sweep a hunter's legs out from under him. The man fell, and the mother's paw came down, pinning him to the ground without killing him. The last hunter hesitated, looking between Eli and the mother, and that. Pause. Eli stepped forward, pressing the spear tip to the gap in the man's armor. "Drop it," he said. The hunter obeyed, letting his weapon fall into the sand. The fight was over, but the air was still tense. The mother stood beside Eli, now her chest rising and falling. The cub chirped softly, and the mother lowered her head to nudge it. Eli felt a strange calm wash over him, a fragile moment in the middle of the wastes. He looked at the fallen hunters. "Go back and tell whoever sent you that the mother and cub are gone." His voice was steady. "If you try again, you won't." Walk out of the mist, they left quickly, dragging their unconscious companions. Disappearing into the fog, Eli turned to the starling mother. "Let's get you home," he murmured. She didn't speak, but her eyes met his for a long, silent moment. Then she began walking, her massive body vanishing into the silver mist. Eli followed close behind, the cub warm against his chest. Somewhere ahead, the mist. Wastes shifted again, opening a path that had not been there before, a path that led deeper, toward the place the mother called home, and toward something Eli wasn't expecting at all. Asterisk. The deeper Eli walked into the mist wastes, the more the fog seemed to move aside for him. It was as if the starling mother herself commanded it to clear the path. The cub stirred in the sling, chirping softly, and each sound made the mother glance back to check it was safe. Hours passed, though time felt strange here. The light never shifted. The air never warmed or cooled. And yet, Eli felt they were close to something. He noticed the ground changing, the sand giving way too smooth. Dark stone patterns carved into it that glowed faintly beneath the mist. Then the fog thinned, and he saw it, a vast clearing, ringed by towering black stones that leaned inward like the ribs of some ancient creature. At the center lay a nest, not of straw or leaves, but of woven silver threads. It shimmered in the dim light, each strand alive with faint energy. The starling mother walked into the nest and lowered her head. The cub wriggled free from Eli's sling and ran to her, making happy, high-pitched chirps. The mother wrapped her body around it, her eyes closing for the first time since he had met her. Eli stayed at the edge, not wanting to intrude, but as he turned to leave, the mother opened her eyes and looked at him. Then she moved aside slightly, revealing something deep in the nest. It was an orb, smooth and black, with faint golden veins pulsing through it. The sight made Eli's skin prickle. Something about it felt alive. The mother nudged the orb toward him with her nose. At first, he didn't move. "I don't know what you think I can do with this," he said quietly. But her gaze didn't waver. He crouched down and touched it. The surface was warm, almost like skin. A pulse moved through his fingers. Not just a sound, but a feeling. Like a heartbeat syncing with his own. Then he heard the queen's voice in his memory. Cold and certain, "The beast guards something I need, and it will not be taken by force." He realized now that this orb was what she had wanted all along. Not the cub, not even the mother. Just this. The thought made his stomach turn. He looked back at the mother, who watched him without fear. She had given this to him willingly, but not because she trusted the queen. No, she was trusting him. The choice was suddenly clear. If he took this to the queen, she would use it for whatever power it held. The mother and her cub would be hunted forever. If he kept it, he might make an enemy of the most powerful figure. On this world, Eli stood slowly, the orb cradled in his hands. The mother gave a slow, rumbling breath. Not approval, not warning, just acknowledgement, as if she knew his decision already. When he finally left the clearing, the fog closed behind him, erasing the path like it had never been there. He walked for hours, but the mist wastes seemed to guide him. And before long, the city walls rose in the distance. At the gates, the queen's guards waited. Their eyes dropped to the bundle in his arms, and one of them stepped forward. "The queen is expecting you." In the throne room, the queen's smile was sharp. "So, you have returned." And with what I asked for, her gaze dropped to the orb. "Give it to me, human." Eli stepped forward, holding it out, and then, with one smooth motion, he dropped it. The orb hit the marble floor and vanished into a shimmer of golden light. Dissolving into nothing, the queen's smile froze, her eyes narrowing. "What have you done?" she hissed. Eli met her stare without flinching. "Made sure you'll never have it." His voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "The mother trusted me, not you. And I won't trade that trust for your power, for a moment." The throne room was silent, except for the faint echo of his words. Then the queen leaned back slowly, her eyes cold. "You've made a dangerous choice." Eli Carter, he turned to leave, not looking back. So have you. When he stepped out into the streets, the air felt different, lighter. The queen's shadow would still follow him, but he knew he had done the only thing he could live with. Somewhere out in the mist wastes, the starling mother raised her cub without fear. And the strange bond between them, human and beast, remained unbroken. And as he walked into the busy market, a voice whispered from the crowd, full of disbelief. "No way. Is that the man who caught the toughest creature to hunt with his bare hands?" Eli only smiled, kept walking, and disappeared into the noise of the city. Asterisk.